The opening ceremony of the 2000 Summer Olympic Games took place on Friday, 15 September in Stadium, Australia. As mandated by the Olympic Charter, the proceedings combine the formal and ceremonial opening of this international sporting event, including welcoming speeches, hoisting of the flags and the parade of athletes, with an artistic spectacle to showcase the host nation's culture and history. For Sydney 2000, the Games were formally opened by Governor-General Sir William Deane. The ceremony was described by IOC President Juan Samaranch as the most beautiful ceremony the world has ever seen. It also represented everything Australian, from sea creatures and flora/fauna, to lawn mowers and other Australian cultural icons. The opening ceremony had a cast of 12,687 people who took part in the ceremony, consistent with normal major production management together with co-ordination of the ceremony with over 12,000 performers. The Sydney Symphony mimed the music on the night. This was to ensure against the forecast rain and windy conditions. The music was pre-recorded in the preceding weeks under studio conditions, ensuring the flawless quality of the music broadcast around the world on this night. Hosted by Channel 7's sports commentator David Fordham and Channel 7's newsreader Chris Bath, while 7 months pregnant with her first child, live on stage in the stadium. Featured various performances, including Waltzing Matilda with John Williamson. The opening ceremony began with a tribute to the heritage of the Australian stock horse, with the arrival of a lone rider, Steve Jeffries, whose Australian stock horse, Amo, reared. Steve Jeffries then cracked his stock whip, and a further 120 riders and their stock horses entered the stadium and performed intricate steps, including forming the 5 Olympic rings, to the music of Bruce Rowland, who composed a Special Olympics version of the main theme which he had composed for the 1982 film The Man from Snowy River. A giant banner, painted by Sydney artist Ken Dunn, said "Da to the world." The Australian national anthem, Advance Australia Fair, was sung by both Human Nature and Julie Anthony, accompanied by the Sydney Symphony Orchestra. After the arrival of the Governor-General Sir William Deane, the Prime Minister John Howard and the President of the IOC Juan Samaranch. This segment celebrates Australia's affinity with the sea, with the stadium floor being turned into a beach setting. Nikki Webster arrives in beachwear and bask in the light. She seemed to fall asleep on the beach and drifts off into a dream. The performers represented the sea, and the various aquatic fauna appear and move around the arena floor. This was a tribute to the Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia. Nikki Webster was then hoisted up in the air by overhead wires and swam with the sea creatures. Other swimmers were also present, being coached by Australian swimming coach Laurie Lawrence. Elena Katz-Chernin composed the music for this section, which was performed by the Sydney Symphony Orchestra and Sydney Children's Choir. The Awakening segment commemorated Australia's Aboriginal past, which dates back thousands of years. A special welcome was made to countries competing at the Games. An Aboriginal elder guided Nikki Webster through the segment. Narration for the segment was by Australian Indigenous actor Ernie Dingo. The Nature segment showcased the Australian outback, wildlife and flora. It began with various fire performers moving across the stadium floor, symbolizing the advance of a bushfire. In the aftermath, performers representing the forest as the land is replenished with water and life. The stadium floor is filled with performers dressed in costumes representing various flowers, including Australia's distinctive wildflowers such as the golden wattle, the warata, the Sturt's desert pea, water lilies and eucalypt flowers. The fauna, which were represented by 7 large paintings by Geoffrey Samuels, were then revealed, depicting the indigenous animal life in Australia. The dreamlike music heard during this sequence was composed and conducted by Australian composer Chong Lim. The flowers once more were illuminated before moving out of the stadium.